This is Rise. Let's lock in with the goal of changing one life at a time. Yours. Together, let us rise up, inspire, strengthen, and elevate our minds. It's time to rise on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello, my name is Dr. Saren Haran, and welcome to Rise. Today we are going to talk about how anger can impact one's health. We have today with us Dr. Karen Wilner, who is a licensed psychologist for 40 years. She has her private practice in Newport, Rhode Island, and Newtown, Connecticut. She currently directs the Core Energetic Academy in Newtown, Connecticut, and was formerly assistant director of the International Institute for Core Energetics, senior director of the Brazilian Institute, and associate director in Australia. She has traveled widely, giving lectures, workshops, and seminars. She has written numerous journal articles about somatics and psychology. In addition to her training program, she is presently teaching the master's level holistic counseling courses at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. She is here today to share how to release toxic anger, negative thoughts, soothe stress, and stay true to oneself. She will discuss the harms of anger, how to release it, which will lead you to a better health. Her passion is helping people live a fuller life and rise above toxic anger. Dr. Karen Wilner, welcome to Rise here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. It's very exciting.
I'm happy that you are here. Now, you have been a licensed psychologist for 40 years. How did you decide to pick such a career path?
Well, it wasn't hard. When I was 16 years old, my English teacher asked us all to write an autobiography saying what we wanted to do, and I said psychologist. I kind of just knew it. So I was off and running at an early age. Just wanted to help people and understand behavior and the mind.
I think that's excellent. Now, you do work with a set of age group individuals that you treat over 15 years and middle age. Speak to us about that age group that you work with.
Well, generally I work with adults of all ages. Young adults, 16, all the way up to, 90 or 100 if they want me. So I like a variety of people, and so that suits me well. I love children, but when you work with children, you have to work with their parents and their families, and
absolutely.
That is a little much for me.
Could be challenging, I can imagine.
Yes.
Now let's talk about anger. Everyone gets angry at some point, but speak to us about how holding onto anger can impact our bodies and cause stress to our bodies. Speak to me about that.
Okay. Well, anger is, first of all, a normal, natural thing. We all have it in our brains. We have the fight or flight response, and it clicks on when we feel like we're in danger. So what happens is chemicals, adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, all these chemicals to protect us from danger move into our bodies. And when we're angry, if those chemicals don't leave in a short amount of time, it poisons us. So often it's connected with cardiovascular disease, it's been connected with cancer, arthritis, all kinds of allergies. So anger can be a problem, and if it doesn't leave you quickly.
Now, earlier you mentioned fight or flight, which for some of us who are in healthcare, we're familiar with that terminology. But speak to us a little bit about the fight or flight. How does our body go into that motion of?
All right. Well, in your brain, you have your old brain. It's primitive. It's millions of years old that we've inherited. And this brain is the brain that we would use if we were still living in a jungle and there were wild animals around. So this brain is meant to protect us from danger. And that means, strong storms, wild animals, fire, um, and it turns on. But the problem is, right now, we don't have wild animals. What we do have is your boss might look at you the wrong way,
Right.
but that fight and flight still turns on. And that's why you end up poisoning yourself.
Now, men and women sometimes, of course, like you said, it's natural for us to get angry. But why do you think women are more likely to suppress their anger versus a man?
All right, well, that's a good question. So, in this culture, angry men are more accepted. We don't love them, but if a type A guy throws a temper tantrum, slams the door, yells at his staff, people accept it, But if a woman did that, she would be looked at very poorly. So women are called witches. If we're angry, it's a bad rap. Well, we know that when we're raised, growing up, we're told by our parents and our religious leaders, smile, be nice. That's the message we get. I think that's changing. I know the younger generations don't get that message quite as much, or at least they stand up to that message. But many of us were raised with that message.
Right. Now, there is research that shows heart disease is a number one killer, and anger can be associated with that. Explain to our listeners in a little bit more details. How do we see that association, or how have you seen that in your own practice?
Well, first of all, that I think I want to underscore that both men and women succumb to heart disease. It is above every other thing, above cancer, etc. People die, men and women, of heart disease. That could be strokes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, anything having to do with the cardiovascular system. Anger, it's a little different. For men, the men who are the loudest and scream and shout and are kind of scary can very well have heart attacks, strokes, and end up dying prematurely because of their anger. Or the anger, I don't know if the anger is the only factor, but it's certainly one main factor. And women, on the other hand, who suppress their anger, those nice girls, we grew up smiling, not saying anything mean, keeping it all in, we are more likely to get heart disease, breast cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, and different kinds of skin disorders.
Now, of course, how do you, I want to talk a little bit about culture. How do you feel that culture, suppressed this truth, if you may?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question because it's kind of just what I said. The culture has a certain script for women and a certain script for men, and that hopefully is beginning to change. Although right now our culture is kind of interesting because there's a lot of anger all around us politically. Everyone's angry. If you turn on the news, there's wars going on. Just a few years ago, there were no wars, and now we have the Ukraine-Russian situation. We have a war in the Middle East. So I don't know if you call that anger, but there's a lot of violence and shootings in the United States. So we're living in a time where it's right out there. It's in front of us.
Now, what are some techniques that you think we could use to help release that anger, as we call it?
Right. So I'm going to start by talking about the body. I think the body is an important part of this because when we have anger, that goes right. The adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol, which represent anger, go right into the bloodstream. And that blood flows into all our organs and all our muscles. So a lot of people, particularly women, aren't even aware when they're angry. You may think you're angry, but you can't feel it in your body. You're cut off from your body. So my first step would be anger awareness, or just even body awareness.
Right.
So there are different kinds of exercises. You can even find them online. Relaxation exercises, right. Body scans, all kinds of things that can make you more aware of your body. And you'll start to see how tense you are. And tension, believe it or not, is anger. Tension is a combination of anger and fear. So the first step would be awareness. My second step would be helping you release that anger. Sometimes it's just talking about it. Right. But other times we could have you punching a punching bag.
Absolutely.
Or a pillow even.
Right. Find a way to release that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But just my only caveat is you don't ever do it toward another person.
Absolutely
so
not.
You can find a safe way to release your anger. I've had people shout in the shower or in their cars with the windows rolled up. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is grounding it. Anger wants to go up, wants to give you a headache.
Right.
It wants to make you hot in the head. So you have to bring it down toward your feet. So we have a lot of exercises that help people bring it down to the ground.
You were listening to Rise on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Saren Haran, and today we're talking with Dr. Karen Wilner, who is a licensed psychologist for 40 years. She has her private practice in Newport, Rhode Island, and Newtown, Connecticut. She currently directs the Core Energetic Academy in Newtown, Connecticut, and formerly assistant director of the International Institute for Core Energetics, senior director of the Brazilian Institute, and associate director in Australia. She has traveled widely, giving lectures, workshops, and seminars, and she has written numerous journal articles about somatics and psychology. In addition to her training program, she is presently teaching the master's level holistic counseling courses at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. She is here today to share how to release toxic anger, negative thoughts, soothe stress, and stay true to oneself. She will discuss the harms of anger, how to release it, which will lead you to better health. Her passion is helping people live a fuller life and rise above toxic anger. Now, Dr. Karen, I really appreciate all the advice you're giving, and I want to continue to get into more about anger. Now, when someone is suffering from anger, for whatever the reason is, how does it cause those negative thoughts?
Well, anger doesn't really cause negative thoughts. Negative thoughts cause anger. So if you sense let's say your boss does look at you with an evil eye or frowns at you, you might say, "Oh my God, I must have done something wrong. I don't deserve it. I'm working really hard. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve this boss to look at me like this." So immediately you're angry. So the thinking, any thought where you feel like you're being hurt or accused of something or disappointed, let's say somebody makes plans and then doesn't carry them through, those thoughts are going to create this outpouring of chemistry into your bloodstream that we call anger.
Now, we just discussed how negatively or vice versa anger can impact our health. What advice could you offer to our listeners who don't act like, who for those who may act like something doesn't bother them, right? And they keep it inside. And we would say you betray yourself. Speak to that for us.
That's a great question. I think you have to learn how to talk about your anger in a tactful way. So, yeah, you don't have to be the kind of person that gets a bad reputation as somebody that's losing their mind or overly emotional. In fact, you can wait till you're calmer. Wait a few hours, maybe maybe even a few days. But then you need to say, you can, if you don't want to say I'm angry, you can say I'm not happy with what happened. I'd like it to be different. This is what I want in the future. You have to speak up for yourself. We call it assertiveness. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be vicious or mean. In fact, I would advise against it. But you do have to say, I'm angry that I wasn't heard, or I'm angry that my idea was dismissed and you received other people's ideas, or I'm angry that I made dinner and you weren't around. So otherwise it just sits inside you and you think you're okay, but you're not. End up taking blood pressure medicine, you'll know why.
I know that's very harmful to our bodies. We don't want that to happen. Now, as a psychologist, what would you say are some common reasons why your client, those that you have seen and helped, why do they suffer from anger, as we call it?
Well, people have anger. I don't know if they suffer from it. Some people really enjoy it, actually. But people have anger when their expectations aren't met. So, if Costco says they're going to send something in 3 days and it takes a week, you might be angry because you needed that item. If your friend says they're going to call and invite you to a party and then they don't, that will make you angry. You're going to feel rejected or left out. So expectations that are dashed. Sometimes people blame other. Let's say something happens. The tire on your car went flat. You don't take responsibility because you weren't aware of that tire. You blame whoever used the car last. Why didn't you check this? So anger is a funny thing. So people come in mostly because they feel betrayed, or something unjust happened. Somebody got an A grade and you got a C, and that really feels fair. You worked equally hard. So there's anger around everything, really, where there's injustice, where expectations aren't met, where you feel betrayed, where you feel rejected.
Okay. Now, you believe that obviously therapy can be beneficial to both men and women who may not be aware of how to cope and heal from anger that may result, like you listed, various circumstances. Speak to me about how beneficial do you think having therapy can be for a person, anyone, both whether male or female?
I think any kind of therapy is very beneficial, because even if it, like I do a combination of body and mind therapy, but some people just do what we call talk therapy. It's just verbal. But even that's quite beneficial, because it really helps if you can speak about what you're angry about and even say it to this kind of neutral person. And the more you talk about it, that's a kind of relief. And often the therapist will work with you in more of a problem-solving approach. So how can you deal with this? How can you turn this from negative to positive? The therapist may even suggest you use your anger to create a dance or a piece of music or a poem. So lots of good things can come out of working on these issues in therapy, and it also will help your health.
I have to totally agree with you on that. Now, your specialty is energy psychology. For those listening who are not familiar with that type of therapy, could you share with us a little bit about what is energy psychology?
Okay, it's a little bit, I guess, I think of when I think of energy, I think of acupuncture. I don't know how many of
Right.
the listeners had that kind of experience, but energy is, we believe that everything is made up of energy. So the chair you're sitting on, or that you're listening to this radio or podcast on, is made of molecules that have energy, and our bodies are the same way. We're made up of energy as well. So, and the whole universe is energy. Everything's energy. There's nothing that's not energy. It's just different consistencies. So the human body has energy that flows in it. It flows around our body almost like in a figure eight. That's why the acupuncturists talk about meridians. So sometimes, and particularly when you're angry or frightened, the energy stops flowing. It actually gets stuck in your muscles. And it distorts your body. Right now, if you touch your jaw, you might feel like you have a very tight jaw. A lot of people hold anger in their jaw, or your body might be very taut. I dealt with a young man earlier today who had tremendous tension in his belly. It was almost like there was a fist in his belly. So the idea is with energy, we work with the body for the muscles to release the energy. They're holding on to it very tightly, and we have them release it so it gets back into the natural flow. It's almost like a stream of energy. You want it to stream through your body. You know how you feel when you feel great? You feel like, wow, you could do anything. That's
Absolutely.
energy.
Yeah.
We want that stream of energy to flow through you in a very positive way. So that's what energy psychology is.
You are listening to Rise on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Sarah Haran, and today we're talking with Dr. Karen Wilner, who is a licensed psychologist for 40 years. She has private practice in Newport, Rhode Island, Newtown, Connecticut. She currently directs the Core Energetic Academy in Newtown, Connecticut, and was formerly assistant director of the International Institute for Core and Energetics, senior director of the Brazilian Institute, and associate director in Australia. She has traveled widely, given lectures, workshops, seminars. She has written numerous journal articles about somatics and psychology. In addition to her training program, she is presently teaching master's level holistic counseling courses in Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. She is here today to share how to release toxic anger, negative thoughts, soothe stress, and stay true to oneself. She will discuss the harms of anger, how to release it, which will lead you to a better health. Her passion is helping people live a fuller life and rise above toxic anger. Now, Dr. Karen, we have critical elements which we do examine in terms of anger, which we're talking about. But how do you believe family dynamics affect the body and the overall health? Speak to me about that.
Well, I think family dynamics are at the root of all this. There are two ways you get created. One is genetics, what you've inherited, which also comes from your family,
Right.
and then also how you're nurtured. And many people have tough childhoods. We hear of all kinds of trauma. It can even happen while you're still in the womb. It can happen at birth. And it can happen when you're a little child. Little children have no choice. You do whatever your parents tell you. So sometimes you're neglected. Sometimes you're smothered and suffocated by your parents. Whatever it is. So the family dynamics is what starts the pattern of anger going. Because you have certain expectations that you're born with to be treated well, and that doesn't always occur. And then what happens is we repeat those patterns. We don't, that's where therapy can be very helpful because you can learn about your patterns so you don't keep repeating them. But when we're left to our own devices, they become habitual. So if you were neglected as a child, there's a good chance you'll pick partners in life who are neglectful of you. So you keep these same patterns going. So these dynamics actually do shape your anger.
Now, it is said that healthy people are happy people. Talk to me about that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think, there's some truth in that, and that's what the research shows. They don't say it exactly like that, but the research shows that the more negative thinking you have, the more it's connected with anxiety, depression, anger, fear, and health health problems, disease, and mental illness. And the more positive thinking you do, it's you're not connected with disease. You're not connected with mental health problems. So it's important not to have false positive thinking. I'm not saying you have to go around and pretend you're happy, but it's important to learn how to stop the negative thinking. So at least your thinking is calm and peaceful and not negative.
Now, as we're getting ready to wrap up the show, you have written books, self-help books, to help people deal with anger. Share with us the title of your book and what could readers expect and how could they get access to your book?
Right. Well, the book that's coming out on anger is, the title may have changed slightly, but this is for women. It's Releasing Toxic Anger for Women, but it will work for men just as well. Body-based practices to transform negative thoughts, soothe stress, and stay true to yourself. So it's a wonderful book because it combines how to work with your mind as well as your body to release your anger, so you're not suppressing it, but you're also not being cruel.
And if you could leave our listeners or college students in our audience who are listening today with one good advice about letting toxic anger go, what would that be?
Well, I think the most important thing is to either speak it, say it in a nice way after you're no longer hot in the head, wait till you're grounded,
Right.
Or to at least do something with your body, go into the shower and shout or get in your car and shout and let it out.
I totally agree with you. Now, thank you for being here, Dr. Karen Woolner. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure, too. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Sharon Haran. It was very informative to learn the correlation between what are various causes of stressors that can affect our health. Don't stay angry. Let us release that toxic energy from our mind, body, and soul. Seek healing and get back to the whole person that you are meant to be. Seek proper health and release yourself from anger. Don't let anger hold you back. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Rise, available wherever you listen to podcasts and always right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.